Hello, everyone. So we're open the gates, just waiting a minute or two so that people can join in. Hi, Denis.
Hello.
Great. As we're waiting now here, let me maybe we could just provide some highlight information instead of just staring at each other and waiting for the webinar to start. Yeah, so for people the early birds that joined in, just wanted to kind of remind you that we've done a series of other webinars before that, so that you always have access to that on the community. So if ever you want to go and review how it was on the previous webinars, they are available in our documentation section where we have a client webinar category. And then from here, you'll be able to review that along with other documentation we have too. And it might take time also to review the roadmap or the release notes. We have a new feature we just released here, better integrating with our Salesforce and client environment, where we're providing the release note in a different fashion now, all integrated with our internal system with client projects. So I think we might start. Are we good to go, Denis?
I'm good on my side, Dominic.
Excellent. Just checking. I am recording. Just don't want to get caught again. And so everything should be fine here. Everyone hears us well. If there's any issues, let us know. We have Melody also joining us today to moderate the Q&A. So if there's anything we can answer back live, she'll be able to either respond by text or send back the question to us. But anyhow, if any questions are left unanswered by the end of this session, we will follow up with you by emails to make sure that everyone gets their answers. Let's do that. So today, bridging the gap between sales and delivery. So we're upstream compared to what we've done in the past. So we're looking really more to how we can sell and create that connection between sales and delivery. Mainly going to cover, I would say, templates, proposal, and pipeline projects, so really upstream Q&As. And we, as usual, we have a closeout survey so that you can suggest any further topics, obviously provide us with your comments on anything, but also preferred topics for next one. This one is influenced by your comments too. So feel free to, or do not hesitate to provide any feedback on that, please. Usual disclaimer, so we are V47 now, so any similarities are not coincidental, but maybe there's features that you'd like to have. So we do strongly advise or suggest that you can put some time on your schedule this year to get the latest and greatest release. So contact support if ever you want to move to the latest. All new ideas, corrections and stuff obviously are done in the latest release. So as I mentioned, we are focusing here on projects and estimate upstream. So the workflow that is there, we've covered a bit on the resource management, time and execution, and obviously project management in the past webinars. But today it's a bit more, as I said, on the intake of the project management. Denis, why are we doing this today? What's to be resolved?
Yeah, well, we've been exchanging a lot with customers in the past, and a lot of the pain points are often coming up when it comes to those that transition from the sales department to operation. We came up with a list of gaps that usually are identified. The first one is obviously the lack of communication between those two departments. That causes the main information gap for the delivery to pick up. That's really one of the cause of the misunderstanding about all of the requirements, the timeline, the budget. So let's say that this gap is even worse if you're not equipped with a PSA tool boosted by a clean business process. So that's what we try to help you with client and with your business processes as well. The delays on the sales to delivery. So this is pretty self-explanatory. The handoff could be manual and time-consuming, especially if you take into consideration so the eventual delays in starting the project and the lack of the the clarity around your project goals and requirements could be a pain, right? The inaccurate project scoping is often it's too often a misalignment of the customer expectation on the scope and the timeline on the given budget, and that hurts very badly. So the sales department not always have a clear understanding of the required resources, leading obviously to underestimated time, resources, and adding delays, and obviously adding costs.
Yeah, stuff you don't want to manage downstream with the delivery. You want to have that clear up front. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, the limited visibility is more like from one side, the sales department do not have, as I said, a visibility on operation department. So the workload and the resource availability could lead to like over promise to customer and not delivering on these, like as too often upcoming projects are not considered in forecasting. So that's another thing. So also on the other side, the inadequate resource allocation, the operation department sometimes doesn't have the access to all of the sales department insight into the customer needs. So that leads as well to some to us not assigning the best resources, or even that could lead to having less productive work and unsatisfied customers. The last one would be like the lack of ownership. It's really that loophole. Like without ownership, there's no responsible for success or for failure. No accountability, and accountability is something really important to client. So it becomes difficult to make decisions when there's no owner, and it leads to lack of commitment from other team members, and that kind of lack of focus on project goals and lack of urgency on delivering the objectives is also often a result of missed deadlines. So all of these are like big gaps that have been identified. Dominic, do you have any other?
I would just add big gone spreadsheets. That's basically what we could say. It's it's perfect. It's really creating relationship and visibility interaction so that you get better visibility and ownership. It just summarizes very well.
Yeah, so we should be able to find something inclined to help us at least with one or many of these gaps. We'll give you some ideas of items that could help you. I would say that the first item is definitely having one system, relying on accountability, like having our resources accountable for each little small portion of the project, as well as for the big ones, or vice versa. And we'll look at some tools that will help us to solve these gaps, basically.
And then basically that's just to set the table. So we're trying to resolve those issues, and we'll look into our workflow, which is estimate and forecast, looking into templates, SOWs, and proposal pipeline projects, which gets us to forecasted revenues and other stuff. So we'll focus on those items today.
Yeah, as you know, the sales to operation process is not something that is set in stone. So we decided to explain all of the little components so that we could adapt to your business processes. That's basically
why we want to use projects and task template. Let's start with that, kind of setting our foundation. We will look into creating proposal, but we want to leverage the business knowledge, the experience, and why we want to use that shortly, Denny.
Well, it's going to be very, very self-explanatory what we have here. So we enforces our best practices, standardize, templatization, right? So taking advantage of our past successes, building on them, improving collaboration, communication. So all within one platform that's going to remove some gaps. Build on past success, I just mentioned it. Reduce error and mistakes. So the tested and proven framework will always be reused. So we're expecting to improve our delivery and our assignments, as well as the increase on margin and efficiency.
Yeah, eventually it comes down to that. If you deliver better, then you get more money out of it. So
yeah,
kind of makes sense. So I'll kind of go over maybe briefly a template and the main components for all PMPs out there, project managers, or anyone kind of. This picture here at least would probably flag or light some lights here. Really, a project scope, cost, schedule is basically what you want from a project, and ultimately your quality is dependent on any of those three components. That's basically a project here. So that's what we want in our template. So briefly, you'll see first that we have in the latest version, we've revisited for any new customer out there. They have a new page layout that we're proposing. Eventually, we can review together if you have any questions, but it might obviously be different than yours. And we just change a bit of that in the latest version just to clarify basically the different items. Project is one. So we have different sections that we've added, as you can see here. So a template, high level definitions, obviously, of a project. I'll go here in configuration because I think it's main components that basically you can have from a template. So how is your project going to react? So key behaviors of your project. And obviously, if, billing type, rate cards, and those type of things can be, as they are in your project template, will be reused. Basics, but just to set grounds for the same for everyone. A project template is a project record, standard one, just that we have it checked as a project template. So we have both project templates and task templates. A project can be used in both occasions. Project template will use all envelope information from that project, along with what is comprised within the project tasks and all other components we'll see. A task template then will be only using what's in the container, not the container itself. So this is where you can use it, insert as task template, and build a project from different components or widgets or bundles of tasks or modules you might have in your business, and you want to assemble the project from that. So it's just simply checking that, making your project template available for other people if you want to, and then you're good to go. It's going to use the information from there. If you have custom fields eventually, they could also be leveraged. We have a field set that can include that whenever we're cloning a project. Briefly, going into my workspace here, just to show on the building blocks why we would want to have a template, main components, key components we'd like to have. So I'm here on a project, either it's very high level with phases, either it's a bit more details with lots of subtasks, or in some cases, if you're more agile, it could be a mix of fixed task or structure with stories. So it could also be have different formats, obviously. But the key components here is a work breakdown structure. Is what is your recipe? How do you deliver? How do you offer that scope basically from that triangle and the project definition? Your work breakdown structure is part of your scope. In this case, I do have some further details in this case for subtasks. You just want to have a level where you can eventually estimate, convey the information, and have clarity over to your customer and your delivery team. What is in that project? What's the scope? So the structure, along from those tasks, also we have descriptions that we'll see later. We can leverage that information into a SOW. So the description, what's in, what's out. You want to convey that. Which is going to be leveraged further instead of having that aside in a spreadsheet or a note field or whatever. You want to have that in your structure so that you keep on building and building. So template is good for that too. If I dig into a task, just to go further, we have the scope and we had that section in the middle, which is quality to contribute for that. Delivery method, you have the structure, but you also have the checklist that can be conveyed into a template. So that if you have instruction for your team, don't forget to do this and that within when you're delivering this type of project. You want to have that into your templates too, the checklists. Out of your closeout projects and your closeout meetings and lessons learned, you want to feed back that information and loop that business knowledge back into the projects. The other component, the schedule, obviously from a project template, we have a timeline. So a rough sketch timeline, or basically just indicating to your customer, this is your delivery, the duration of a project. So it's clear and when they will get this value, what is your time to value and what you're offering, when do they get access to those deliverables. So your timeline is very important. And we'll see that we can make it relatively easy to keep and modify. So we'll see how we can leverage that, obviously, when we're spitting new projects and use that as a pipeline project. And then we have all that is budget costs. So in this case, we have evaluated effort with estimated hours. We also have some assignments. It's a template. We can already have some assignments on that. And for this, I'll just flip to the assignment grid so we get a bit of visibility of what's underneath. So for each of those tasks, we have placeholders at this point, and we have an effort that is already assigned to them. So it helps us on building a price. It helps us on scheduling and forecasting resource availability. And we'll see it also helps us on forecasting revenue because we have that laid out in time with our project plan or whenever those events are going to happen in our project. Forgetting anything, Denis?
No, I think you're right on spot. Maybe the only thing I would add is the possibility to add customer homeworks sometimes to the structure. That could be very relevant when creating a proposal, like making sure that the customer knows he's involved and has items to deliver as part of the project.
Perfect.
I think you were right on it.
Excellent. So let me just flip back here. So now we've kind of set our building block. Maybe I'll let you talk to that, Denis, just briefly, and we can jump into creating that process.
Yeah, very quickly. Those project templates will help us not only in delivering customer-facing project, but other types, different use cases, just to come up to your mind. Obviously, all of those professional services, but anything that would be development, everything that would be internal project as well, control project. Internally, we've used Klient to onboard new employees, offboard new employees, making sure that we have all tasks to different internal resources assigned and that we're not losing track of anything. Could be also, as I said, control projects such as gaining for Klient has been very, very useful, gaining our SOC 2 certification. And KPMG were really impressed about the flow, how quick and how seamlessly we've been able to achieve that. So it's using Klient with another twist than just customer facing. I think that's
there's lots. There's a long list here. Obviously, it's probably not extensive. Basically, I like to say life is a project. So basically, anything you can drive, and then should be your internal process too.
So now I guess you'll show us how to leverage a proposal and pipeline project, like to generate that quote and avoid the gaps that we mentioned earlier, Dominic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So why we want to use proposal? So briefly on this one, or in which case, so I'll show you how we can leverage that. But in this case, I'm going to focus on an initial statement of work, but we could leverage that for change requests and then downstream process and delivering. Obviously here, if you are using or not, I'm going to go, kind of out of the box with Klient here. But if you're using Opportunity with product line items, or maybe you have a CPQ, obviously we would interact or integrate differently and connect with that interface differently, but we still want to show you building blocks of how we can use and quickly spin an offer to a customer using proposal. So back to my environment here, I'm going to go to basically my proposal object. So anyone out there that is not necessarily using now Opportunity, that is a good starting. We're not replacing Opportunity anyhow. It's really just either a staging object or a starting point to get your proposals and offers in your Salesforce and Klient environment. So it's kind of just tracking different offers that we have. You still can do dashboards, kind of dashboard / Kanban board, as you see here, where I'm tracking by status my different proposals, my different items that I have, maybe looking at that dashboard. In this case here, kind of showing depending on the billing type. So, kind of discussion that you have in between either leadership, delivery and sales, that can be used and be useful for that.
That's a bit like what we can do with Opportunity, right? We can leverage the Kanban Salesforce feature to look at our proposal.
But it's as I said, it's not Opportunity. It's not replacing that anyhow. It can be a connecting point or a starting point for people that are not using it. So briefly, I'm on an existing one just so I can show building blocks, and then we'll create one just after. But a proposal, high level information on the actual offer that we have. We have some relationship either with other components. Obviously, we have a project related to that. We'll see how it comes into play. And then we have some proposal lines. So your financial aspects or extract from a project, what are we going to bill? T&E could be time like we have here. If it's milestones, then you'd have some fixed fee items that could be leveraged for that. So overall, the object is comprised or related to a project and has some proposal lines here. So let's create one just to see how it goes. So let's imagine we are in a business where we have maybe sales that are requesting leads or delivery manager, sorry, to generate a new proposal because we have a new offer to build. So let's just create a new proposal blank. From here, I haven't mentioned, but still you're in a client environment leveraging Salesforce platform items. Chatter and activity is something you should look into. So as soon as you have something that you want to have that starting the interaction between sales and delivery to generate a proposal and a scope and a SOW, Chatter is a very good place. You could have someone creating a proposal and do an mention to Roxanne, say, hey, Roxanne, come and look into this. I need an offer for this. So that means that you are in the system, you're tracking, you're building that accountability, at traceability as far as who is requested, who needs to come and work on that. So the chatter is an aspect that you can leverage on proposal, and also activity. Start tracking requirements. If you have an email from a customer, connect that to this proposal, so people are having access to the information to contextualize the requests, along with notes. Obviously, if you want to use that, these are all components that can be leveraged on proposal, and as they are on other components of client.
So Dominic, you're working on the communication gap, right? That's what you're doing just with the chatter feature.
Yeah, collaboration, communication, traceability, accountability, that's all, part of that. Thanks for adding on top of that. So from here, what I'm going to do is I want to leverage basically my templates. I want to leverage my business experience. So I'm going to go and import from project here. So the import from project going to provide me with a list of projects that I have in my system, either existing or my template. We could spin a clone or project, or spin a proposal fetching information from an existing customer project. Best practice, we think, is to groom your templates and then use your templates, because that's going to be your proven process. So I'm going to select one of those templates here, and from which I'm going to create a new project, and we'll see how this is very helpful on providing more information to the rest of the team. So from here, I'm going to import that. So it's going to be cloning my project along with its component. In this case, it's the project template concepts that we're using, because it's going to bring over the envelope of the project. It's going to bring over the different tasks, the structure, the assignments, so my budget at some point and how I can use those hours, and then the structure with the dependencies if I have any. So that is creating a project in the background. So if I just come here and do a refresh, we'll see that now we have some lines that are getting added. It keeps on calculating here. We'll see that when we refresh one time further, we'll get total hours here. So my project is being created in the background, and I have that connection here with that new project. Okay. We call it a pipeline project, and we'll see the effect after, but basically it is a project record, just flagged, and status is marked as pipeline here. But it's in there. It's getting us information with expected revenue, budgeted costs, and those margins right off the bat from importing that and creating that new project.
And these are basically the list of financial components you want to expose to your customer using the proposal. So the pipeline project is feeding the proposal.
Yep. To go there, so now we spun that, we use the template. Obviously, it's not always, Pareto rules here. Is that 80% is going to be the same, but there's always that 20%, that we need to tweak, we need to change, extend, change the dates, and maybe add some scoping or remove it. So yes, we could go and open the project and work as you're used to right into the project. For small changes, easiest, one way that we're providing is visibility in the proposal kind of object here view. We are providing visibility to the project underneath. So I have here project workspace. It's related to the projects that I just mentioned. And now I have that, maybe just for a quick change, it's easy to come here instead of changing screen and do any modification I need. Example, I have sections I want to remove. Maybe I want to add some components, or let's say in this case, just to keep it simple, business process review for this customer. Yeah, it's a bit more documentation. There's a bit more to see. So maybe when I have 16 hours instead of 4, so I could just come here, change my estimated hours. And then most likely I will need to go and assign those hours. So I can flip that solution admin engagement lead. Let's say I'm providing 8 hours each because they will contribute on that one here. So I can just go and change those assigned hours. That's going to take care of the loads, the capacity, at least the visibility for eventual capacity requirements, and also budget and expected revenue, because we're increasing our time here, thus our expected revenue from T&E components. And if there was any change to scope, so you could go about changing that descriptions if I'm adding or putting some conditions on that. So really you want to keep that component here of descriptions up to date for your customer and again your delivery team. Back to the proposal. Maybe just a side step here. So again, same concept. Maybe I'm going to get my finger slapped by Yannick on this one. I did change slightly in my environment so that I could have quick access to my components from the projects, the fields from my components. So obviously you might want to say what customer it is for, and then I might want to change also my project name to say this is a MuleSoft, Salesforce, Sales Cloud implementation. Just for clarity, my naming convention, implement. Sorry about that. So basically just to keep that clean, I have a naming convention so that when I'm looking at my project list, I'm keeping that instead of using just myself, just PO53. I like to have that in. For me, it provides more clarity. So once I'm done updating my project, adding, as I said, changing components, hitting refresh here from projects, gonna again take a snapshot, pull the information from my project, and then add that to my different items here. So I've updated the hours. It did update my budget, added increasing the hours that I had from my initial creation, and it updated my expected revenue, my budgeted costs, and thus my margin is calculated too. So creating that project quickly from an initial template. This is what we just did to get a quick price for our customer and still maintaining clarity on what's in and what's out. Yeah, the added bonus on that, maybe all of you are kind of knowing where I'm heading towards, is that basically we have everything now to generate our SOW. We have our timeline, we have our scoping, we have our budget and price, everything is in there, and then additional information from my project for the scope itself. So from here, there's not a lot we need to do to be able to generate a SOW itself. So let me just flip for an existing one just to save a few clicks and steps here. I'm opening a different proposal, but basically very similar to what we just did. So from here, we have some fields that are related to SOW here. You might need to have more or less, really depending on what you want. But basically here, I'm contextually describing high level my SOW. So what is the offer I'm making to the customer, relationship to other components in my system, descriptions, my timeline. So a snapshot of my Gantt chart, and then maybe a snapshot also of my WBS so that I can describe what are my deliverables. From here, disclaimer, we are using a third-party software like Conga or FormStack or any other out there that are leveraging our information from client and then generating a PEF document. So the document I'm looking into, and probably a lot of you have already seen this, I use this one quite often in demos or discussion with customer. So from the proposal and underlaying project, I'm generating this document using, in our case, FormStack. So this is basically your SOW. Have your descriptions, your financial components. Scrolling down, I did have it by the, it is from Drakia, our late now merged company and professional service and client now. So this is how we used to do our SOW, and this is how also our PS team is doing it. So we had maybe by then we had some the explanations, we had some offering our project plan, the snapshot we were showing. the aspects I like to show in this document here is basically why would you maintain your descriptions on your project? One of the reasons is that you can offer that and face it to your customer and say, this is what is included in your project, giving the project structure with phases and in subtasks and the descriptions of each. So it's all in one thing. You're going to use that same information to deliver, but why not use it to show to your customer? So the PDF is generated automatically from a button right on the proposal, spitting that PDF, adding it to the files on that proposal, and then you're good to go. You have a completed record where you can send the information to your customer. And then, we could leverage obviously the status. You can have that as an approval process internally that does that collaboration communication. If there's someone that needs to be informed of that, this is ready, add it to your opportunity or send it to the customer, or whatever the context might be. We can use that also as an approval process, either internally or even towards your customer.
Yeah, I was about to jump in on that, as we get sometimes a lot of questions on this, how to make this, how to fit this in your internal business process. Who's going to own the project templates? Is there an approval, as you said earlier, is there an approval process from the operation team on what the sales department is trying to sell, or vice versa? So it supports many different business processes, as long as these are well defined and well and clear in how you want to manage these situations, and then we can tweak clients so that it works for you the best. Yeah.
So just to wrap this, the proposal for some of you, it might be your starting point to make an offer for customer. If you don't have anything else, obviously this is basically what you would need. If you're in a business where you already have opportunity, it could be used as a staging object. So that bridging the gap in between sales, that collaboration object between sales and delivery, or some other might not necessarily need that object and fetch information right from the project. But the concept remains, even if you're using the latter, that you want to spin those offers from a pipeline project so that you will be able to do what we will see next: forecasting revenue, reviewing resource capacity.
Yeah, so that's all of this on the proposal. We'll be able to get all of this information on the proposal from the pipeline project. That's really what's going to help us. So the pipeline project will be allowing us to share accurate data between sales and delivery, as we saw, manage all of the customer requirements straight on the project and making sure it's working fine. It's going to, as Dominic said, encourage the collaboration between the two departments and improve in the end our revenue forecasting and also in our resource capacity planning. So we will provide in a slide deck a little slide that will summarize what the process we just discussed, right? Dominic, do you have anything to add on?
Basically that's what I wanted to cover. I want to keep time where there's about 12 minutes left. I want to keep some time also to show how we can leverage obviously that information, and if there's any question, maybe we'll still have time for that. But I think it's kind of what I wanted to convey as far as how you can leverage that, making better use of your tool here upstream and get your information in the system as early as possible so you can use it better.
So now we get to forecasting using the project template proposal, talking about resource capacity, resource forecasting. Right?
Why would we want to use a pipeline project, Denis? Just to throw.
Well, that's basically what I simply I tried to fast track as well. So I did mention those 4 items as we were looking at the other slide, but basically you get the idea of what are the benefits using the pipeline project. Yeah,
exactly. So for that, going back here, 3 items I want to touch base on. So as you're creating your project, your pipelines, including your placeholders, obviously the first point where I want to go is the resource plan. So the resource planner here is going to get that information so that we can look into assignments to resource, or looking at it by project. But as you have a project which is marked as pipeline, maybe related to that proposal, now you have it and you have visibility on it. So for leadership reviews, PMOs and stuff, or sales, you're able to look into what's upcoming, what's interesting. Maybe I'm missing some hours, or I have some free times for some of my specialties or roles here. What projects could be interesting? Is there one project that we could fetch and pull on? So that's one thing. It does create the information. Resource planner is one way to look at it, and all the reporting eventually also can be leveraged differently. Resource planner is kind of the first point here. I do take time also to show a new feature that we've mentioned, that resource planner is one of the main focus, I would say not main. There's a lot of focus that we or ideas that we have and we want to deploy in the tool, but there's a big portion of our effort that is done and focused, that's focused on the improving the resource planner, enhancing, getting new functionalities in. A quick win here, and then something that was brought to us by the dev team here is the presets. So you've seen the presets in the workspace and the Kanban, also a Kanban board. We now have it in the resource planner, so that now you can build different filtering that you can easily flip in between. So for me, I just did that. I've installed the new package in my demo environment. I've created different key, views that are like, so see only active projects. So basically it's going to change what we're looking into, again, taking note of, are we in month, week, or whatever we're seeing, what toggles we have. And then it's going to keep track also of the filters that we've applied for that. So this one here is looking at all projects for my implementation team, maybe my pod with different roles. That's what I'm seeing here, and I could flip in between views. So that's a new thing in V47, so latest version. Good thing for you to look into, and we'll keep obviously on improving. New features should come every release, or to improve on that. And so as the team is working hard to get that enhanced. And we also have a new toggle here, billable project only. So if you do have lots of internal, you can focus on just looking into billable. So that toggle will filter out anything that is not billable. So another new thing here on the resource planner.
So the resource planner is giving us access to this kind of information very easily without thinking about using reports, like right on the out of the box tool. We're getting more and more relevant data available for you easily. Yeah.
And then one extra layer that we'll see that will influence maybe the next report or the second next report we'll look into is the booking status. So again, we do have a status which is pipeline status. So we'll see that we can leverage that status into our resource utilization. So if we're using that also for forecasting resources, we can make difference between what is pipeline, so not sold yet, soft book, considering someone on the project, and booked. So that's going to roll up differently in our resource utilization records as far as what's planned. Another aspect here of reportings that is, we think, interesting is project forecasting. So project forecasting is something that we haven't talked about in the latest, webinars we did, but project forecasting is a process that can be scheduled to run, let's say, every night, looking into your project's project plans and, laying out the different revenues, either T&E or milestones in time. So different ways that you can look into that, as far as you can look into how we're going to increase, or just looking at it is very specifically by month and looking into your data different ways. But the interesting aspect of having here pipeline, which is our main topic, is that you can see how your sold projects are increasing, but how can your pipeline projects eventually can feed or help into that revenue. So you want to try to manage your peaks and valleys. If whenever we have some flexibility of deciding when we can have those projects in, you'll be able to kind of have at least some visibility on those peaks and valleys as far as revenue. In this case here, that report, you'll see that based on project forecasts, we will have visibility on actuals eventually, as we start logging time. We also have a component, some fields in there that are looking into baseline. So when we baselined our project, what did it look like, the forecasting then? So you can compare the main baseline to your actual project forecast and to your actual costs. And then, so in this case, I'm focusing only on forecasting because I'm including pipeline hours, but there's different spins on that project eventually that that can follow you along in the life cycle of delivering and in the business process. Project forecasting. Eventually, if any of you that are interested in using this, there's probably documentation or support can provide some FAQ on how to set this up. It'll be a pleasure to. It's quite simple. It's just we need to program that and then launch that so that we have a recurring recalculation, and then in the background we do generate those records that are required to generate this. It's all out of the box. Very easy to configure. And then last but not least, eventually different ways, kind of throwing back in there. It's always my, let's say my not my Pandora box, but kind of my evil report. I'm trying to convey and explain differently each and every time. But basically, as we have that as we've seen on the resource planner, forecasting resource availability, we have the information now to be able to do that even with the pipeline projects. And one thing I haven't mentioned, maybe I'll keep a minute or two just to talk about that, but the timeline on the project. Basically, now we have visibility on all sold project. We could, if we want to, include the pipeline projects in there. And then basically what we have from that report is pushing or calculating or reviewing what is our load on the different roles here, including all the hours we have already assigned or the hours that we have pending on the bench to pipeline resources. And then just clicking here, I'm going to get some of that detail. I want to convey that, show that one here, just because this is where, based on the status of those assignments, we can get a planned utilization without the pipeline, or an actual planned utilization, all encompassing, all projects here. So we see that usually it's going to be from the engagement lead here, or the placeholder, that we would see a difference. Usually if it's assigned to someone, it should be an active project, but we see that now on the engagement lead placeholder here, we have a difference. Sold project already, without pipeline, meaning that I still have some projects to assign most likely. And so they're sold, but then not yet assigned based on status of the project resources and the project in this case. And then total plan, meaning that now if I'm considering all pipeline projects, I would have a difference also in other potential hours here. So this is how eventually we can play around with those values and generate a report, so we can have visibility on usage or planned usage or expected usage of each of our roles here. Yeah, so it kind of brought me back, just taking a step back to my my project. The workspace it's here, I just wanted to mention, because the timeline, as we are modifying obviously our proposal, we would want to make sure that we have that project planned in time correctly. So if it needs to be changed and it's going to occur later, obviously before we take our snapshot and provide the SOW, we would have reviewed our project plan here. So something I forgot to mention when we first had the first pass on that one. So yeah, it's basically it. It was a lot of information that we wanted to have in the same here. So that's basically going over how we can bridge that gap, leveraging proposal, leveraging the pipeline project and our business experience that we're feeding back into those templates to quickly create a SOW and an offer to a customer. And then obviously, as we're flipping this into a live project, we're just changing the status of a project and start assigning and using that information. We don't need to recreate something because it comes from a spreadsheet, or trying to rebuild a project plan. And no, it's going to be the flip of a switch. We won the job. We've, turn around. We're able to say to delivery lead, okay, start staffing, start delivering. All is in there. Take it and take it and deliver.
I think you succeeded in presenting your report and making sure that everything was smooth, seamless, and understandable, digestible for people that are maybe introduced to these concepts, which is hard to grasp maybe at the beginning. Do you mind if we get a look at some of the questions we had?
Sure. Is there anyone that there's one that we can answer? We're at time here. We could take one, and then the rest we can review.
Answer offline, yeah, because we'll finish on right on time. 1 minute. How the opportunity lines and proposal lines would be kept in sync. So I don't know if
If you were, yeah, if we're talking with opportunities, yeah, obviously this is where we have an interface. Usually when we do implementation with our professional service team, there's a component which is opportunity to project or project opportunity. So it'd be defined into a flow basically, and what are the business rule that makes it that we keep it in sync. So it's a flow, a Salesforce flow in the background where we can make basically, we have high flexibility in how we want to integrate. Some customer are using proposals still, even though they have opportunity and they're fetching on the proposal lines, or just the expected revenue as a total price. Or we have other customer that are not using proposal and just pulling information from the project assignments and the project itself. Based on context, what is very useful, what we want is to keep it as straightforward and simple as possible, not overusing objects that you might not need. But we can support you on defining that. So don't hesitate to reach out to me or to Martin or the PS team if you want to have some discussion on that.
Dominic, I see that we're running like if we want to be on schedule, we should maybe discuss and take the other question offline, if you don't mind, and we'll let our users go.
Oh yeah, I have one. Sorry, yeah. So that there was one question. In order to a resource proposal pipeline to be able to do resource proposal, do we need to have a project? I might not have mentioned that, but we could go and create proposal lines manually. In some cases, maybe in a change request, we could create manually lines and just state so many hours of a PM. So many hours in admin, but in that case, it would be only for getting a price up. If we want to have that scheduling resource capacity or visibility, we need to have that in a pipeline project. So spinning a new project to scope that, we need to have that in.
This is one of the scenario we said we did not support today, but we can create from scratch, yeah. Right?
So to wrap this up again, we have a closeout survey whenever we end this session. Next topic, still to be defined here, still want to be influenced by you and to be confirmed, but May 11th is most likely our next session. We have other sessions in the prep, one that we just kind of seething that we call it the client inception. So Yannick is preparing also a series, an open kimono type of thing where we show you how client is managing their business on PS, on SaaS aspects, on different aspects of the business. So there's one also upcoming. Apart from this series here, client knowledge, the customer, the knowledge session. But we'll inform you. We'll let you know, and then I think it should be interesting for quite a bit of people in our customer base too.
Yeah.
Thanks, Denis.
Thanks to you, Dominic. Thanks
to Melody. And then see you next time. In the meantime, reach out, support@klient.com, or directly to me too if there's anything you want to discuss, how you can leverage that. Please reach out. We're here to help. We want you to grow and improve in your process. It's the fun part of our business. So let us know.
Cheers. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.